Today we're leaving Port Hedland after staying at the Discovery Park. The park is about as far as you can get away from the port, at the end of a nice little quiet corner. While it's a pretty big park, the roads are pretty narrow. The van sites are actually a pretty good size, but as you can see, there isn't a lot of room to manoeuvre your van into position. When it comes to moving a van around, I'm pretty good at getting a square peg into a round hole. And on this occasion, I only needed a couple of bites to get the van into the right place. However, on our way back down 4 weeks later, I made a right mess of getting the van into position, so anyone can have a bad day at it. And if you're one of those that are not very good at reversing, you may want to try looking at a different park first. That aside, it was a very good park to stay in. Toilets were clean and tidy, and having a concrete slab for you to step out of the van onto and a slab for you to park your car on is a nice little touch in this dusty part of the world. And they are clearly marked on which goes where. And if you're tenting, then there's a reasonable patch of grass that gets watered the minute somebody leaves for you to put your tent on. And if bringing your own house isn't your thing, then there's a large range of on-site accommodation to choose from. With security gates on the entry and the exit, at least you will know that nobody's going to be able to get in to hook your van up and drive it away while you're not around. Good morning, folks. We are in our second week of our road trip. I've got no idea what day it is. I think it's day 8 or something. We've just left Port Hedland, about a couple of days at Port Hedland. We stayed at the Discovery Parks Caravan Park in Port Hedland, and yeah, not a bad place. Nice patch of dirt to park on, bit of grass, concrete slabs. Only real issue really is that although it's 2 kilometres away to the train lines, you can hear the trains going up and down the railway lines. When you've got 1,000 odd steel wheels running along, it makes a bit of a hum. So if you need a quiet area, that's probably not the right caravan park. But other than that, it wasn't a bad park actually. So today we're on our way to Broome. Pretty much nothing along here to do. It's about 600 kilometres, a little short of 600 kilometres between Port Hedland and Broome, and really there's only a couple of things. There's Pardue Roadhouse and Sandfire Roadhouse, that's about it. 80 Mile Beach is along the way, but that's a bit of a gravel road going into it, and there's a caravan park down there, so funny that being passed by a truck. You know, I've done almost 3,000 kilometres, and that's the second truck that's passed me. I've been really quite surprised at the lack of trucks on the road. I normally sit around about 90, and when they come up behind me, if there's not an opportunity for them to pass, I'll go a little bit quicker so that I'm not holding him up too much until there's a suitable place for him to pass, and then I'll give him a call and let him know that when he's ready to pass, I'll back off so he can get around nice and quickly. You've got to remember about these blokes that they're not on holidays like us and you. They're out there doing a job, and if they get into wherever they're going to late, you know, they cop a fine. You know, might be $1,500 fine for being late. Or if they get in and they miss their unloading time, they might have to sit there 12 hours until the next day until they can get unloaded. That's a lot of time and money to them blokes. I mean, you wouldn't be happy if somebody reached into your pocket and took $1,500 out. So you can understand why they get a bit upset about being held up. The road is not there for them, and it's not there for you, it's for everybody, so you need to be able to share it. And if you're not in a hurry to travel anywhere, just where you got an opportunity, pull up and let them through. Actually, in some states of Australia, regardless of what speed you're doing, if you have a line of traffic behind you, you will get fined for obstructing traffic. So let them all through and everybody's happy. Anyway, enjoy the scenery. We've got about 7 hours of it. We'll be doing just over 600 kilometres today. This is a barren drive with little facilities along the way. There are 2 roadhouses, 80 Mile Beach Caravan Park and a couple of 24-hour stops along this section. So make sure you have enough fuel and your vehicle is ready for the trip. The last thing you want to do is break down out here. For the first 3 or so hours out of Port Hedland, it's been very green, very green leaves. They've had an above average dry season as far as rainfall goes, so it's, everything's quite green and flowers and all that sort of things out. But just as we're coming along here now, this is the edge of, I think it's the Great Sandy Desert. And that comes all the way through to the coast. The coast is out to our left, probably only about maybe 10-15 kilometres or something. It's not that far away. I mean, you might look out there and you think, that's not a desert, it's got plants and everything in it. But a desert, the definition of a desert is not like the Sahara Desert or something like that where it's just all sand. The actual definition of a desert is that there is more water evaporating than what falls in rainfall. If that's what happens, then it's classed as a desert. We do see sometimes camels along here as well. I talk a lot about fuel. That's because without it, you'll go nowhere. When you get out into the remote areas of this country, fuel stops become a priority. The next garage isn't around the corner. It may be several hundred kilometres up the road. Then when you get there, they may not have the fuel you require. In some places, they'll only have diesel, so if you run on petrol, you've got a problem. The other good thing about stopping for fuel is that when you get out, you have to move around, keeping you awake. Because of the long distances, we have a real problem with people pushing too hard and going to sleep behind the wheel. So even if you don't need to get fuel, it doesn't hurt to stop at the roadhouse, to stretch the legs and maybe go to the loo. And if you do use the facilities, then don't forget to buy a little something from the shop on the way out to help keep the roadhouse going so it's there for many years to come. Now out to the left of us is 80 Mile Beach. Now 80 Mile Beach comes up a little bit in our history. Back in the 1940s or 50s I think it was, England started doing nuclear bomb tests out of Woomera, which is in South Australia, and there was a surveyor, Len Bedell. His job was to go out and survey it all out, work it all out, and he had to try find a shooting line that they could shoot these rockets off to test them over land. They couldn't do it anywhere else in the world, because anywhere else in the world, to travel thousands of miles, back then it was miles, if they had to travel thousands of miles over land, you couldn't do it anywhere else because it would go over roads or towns or pipelines or something. It would go over something. Only here in Australia could they find a line to be something like about 2,500 miles where it would not go over anything whatsoever. And 80 Mile Beach was the bit that they actually planned it through. So if it went a little bit to the right, it would hit Broome. If it went a little bit to the left, they would hit Port Hedland and all the other towns further south. So from Woomera or South Australia, across the deserts, through here, he planned out a line all the way through here, and it was all revolved around the nuclear bomb tests and the rocket testing and all that sort of thing. Our lunch stop today is another one of those 24-hour stops. This is Stanley, and as you can see, it's already got a fair few people that are clearly planning to stay for the night, and it's only lunchtime. That's why I say, if you want to stop, get in early. Not only is it food time for me, but it's time to give the Navara a drink too. By having a big tank and a few extra jerry cans, it means I can drive past the expensive fuel stops and save money and time by not having to queue up for ages waiting to get fuel. Jeez, look how busy that is. One of the requirements when I was looking for a new vehicle was that it needed to have enough grunt to be able to sit nicely on the road at a reasonable speed, but with enough in reserve that it was able to get around slower traffic without pulling the guts out of it. Well, this Navara meets that quite comfortably. It's just amazing how the country changes over the distance. Here we're back into the grassy open plains country, perfect for cattle. And speaking of cattle, Just while we're sitting here, just a timely reminder that we've got a lot of cattle coming across the road here at the moment, and it's a timely reminder of the fact that travelling up in the north here, there's a lot of cattle everywhere, and quite often they're on the edge of the road or even on the road. Travelling through at night time is really quite dangerous because you don't see them to the last second, and if you hit one of them in this, it's goodbye forever. Your car's cactus and the cow's not much better either. So just be careful when driving around and keep your eye open for cattle on the road. Well, here we are, I think 8 days after leaving Perth, almost 3,500 kilometres later, and we're not too far out of Broome now, so I hope you've enjoyed this leg that we've just completed. But stay tuned, and coming up soon will be the next leg, which will be from Broome to Darwin. Anyway, till next time, happy travels. We'll be staying in Broome for 4 nights, just one street back from the famous Cable Beach at the Cable Beach Caravan Park. Now, I've done a couple of videos on Broome before, so to tie you over till the next episode's uploaded, here's a link to those videos, and I'll put a link in the description below as well.